present her amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I come before you tonight to introduce an amendment to H.R. 467, the Halt Fentanyl Act. My amendment will reads, notwithstanding any other provision of law, any person who knowingly or intentionally imports fentanyl or any fentanyl-related substance across the southern border shall be punished by death. And I want to talk to you about why this is such an important amendment. Fentanyl, of course, we all know, is the #1 killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. And it's hard to comprehend that our young people are dying today from a drug that is coming from China into Mexico and being trafficked across our southern border by the cartels. Fentanyl kills approximately 300 Americans today. In 2023 alone, CBP has seized over 17,000 pounds of fentanyl coming across the southwest border. This is enough fentanyl to kill over 3.8 billion people. That's how dangerous this drug is. Fentanyl poisoning deaths among teens accounted for 77% of adolescent overdose deaths in 2021. Fentanyl and fentanyl-related substances can be 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. We need to talk about people that are willing to cross our border. Of course, there's many reasons coming across, but they should never, ever bring a deadly poison into our country that murders Americans. In my state alone, fentanyl-involved deaths have increased in Georgia by over 230%. In counties throughout my district, the Georgia's 14th district, from 2019 to 2022, fentanyl-involved deaths have increased by over 350%. There's examples all over the country that are similar to the ones in my district. A 16-year-old girl in Whitfield County who had never taken any illegal drugs or substances in her life took a Xanax she thought was going to help her anxiety, and within 5 minutes, she was dead because it was laced with fentanyl. We also had many overdoses throughout the months and years that the Biden administration has been in charge, and the fact that fentanyl is murdering so many people in Northwest Georgia is shocking. In November 2020, another horrifying story that happens too much. Corporal Christopher Jackson Dye, a Walker County Sheriff deputy, died after being exposed to fentanyl during an arrest. These are stories that we hear too often. But I'd like to talk with you all also just to let you know that there are 41 capital offenses that are punishable by death. Many of these capital offenses involve murder, all types of murder. Murder related to smuggling of aliens, that is punishable by death. Murder committed during a drug-related drive-by shooting, that is punishable by death. Murder committed by the use of a firearm during a crime of violence or drug trafficking crime, that is punishable by death. Genocide is punishable by death. And one could argue, is fentanyl a type of genocide in America today? Other examples of murder that result in the death penalty. Murder for hire involving the use of interstate commerce facilities. Murder involved in racketeering offense. Willful wrecking of a train resulting in death. Bank robbery-related murder or kidnapping. Murder related to a carjacking. Murder related to rape or child molestation. Murder related to sexual exploitation of children. Murder committed during an offense against maritime navigation. Murder committed during an offense against a maritime fixed platform. Terrorist murder of a U.S. national in another country. Murder by the use of a weapon of mass destruction. And I think it is easily arguable that fentanyl is definitely a weapon of mass destruction. There's even death resulting from aircraft hijacking, of course, is punishable by death. So I think it is very, this fits the Halt Fentanyl Act, my amendment, to punish anyone who knowingly and intentionally imports fentanyl into our country that is responsible for murdering over 300 Americans every single day shall be punished by death. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady for her testimony. Chair has no questions. Dr. Burgess?
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I have no questions.
The gentlelady from Pennsylvania.
Thank you. I don't have any questions, but I would like to suggest that this amendment, which applies an automatic death sentence to anyone who imports any amount of fentanyl-type drugs, so long as it comes across the southern border, is not a serious or rational response to a very serious problem. I mean, we've had, at the port in Philadelphia a couple years ago, we had 110 pounds of fentanyl seized, and it came through the port of Philadelphia. So the fact that there would be this bizarre distinction between the southern border and the other ports where 90% of the fentanyl is coming in doesn't make any sense. On the off chance this is supposed to be a serious amendment and not just clickbait for social media or campaign donations, I would offer the following points for consideration.
Nothing is for clickbait
It's
or
my time.
campaign donations.
First of all, the amendment's unconstitutional. The Supreme Court has been clear that the death penalty is a violation of the Eighth Amendment in circumstances where death was not the immediate result of the violation in question. This law contains no such limitations as to seriousness, and what the court said there, and I think it's instructive, is that when the law punishes by death, it risks its own sudden descent into brutality, transgressing the constitutional commitment to decency and restraint. Second, it would have the absurd result that you've got a mandatory death penalty for someone who brings a pill with fentanyl across the southern border, but not for someone who imports hundreds of pounds of fentanyl anywhere else in the country. Third, it imposes a mandatory minimum sentence of death. We've had a lot of conversations, and granted, it was before you came to testify today. We've had a lot of conversations here today about the validity or the use of mandatory minimum sentences, but this would be the first and only mandatory minimum sentence in U.S. history. And none of the other offenses that you cited have a minimum sentence of death regardless of the circumstances. It's always a maximum. So I obviously can't support this amendment, and I yield back.
The gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Would you like to respond to any of that?
Yes, absolutely, I would. First of all, this is not for campaign donations or clickbait like what you said would be for campaign donations and clickbait, and I find that offensive. Secondly, the amendment reads, any person who knowingly or intentionally imports fentanyl. And I would think that you would care about 300 Americans dying every single day, especially young people. But I do agree with you, it shouldn't be just across the southern border. It should be anywhere across our border. And it should be punishable, again, by death. And as far as the death penalty being constitutional, there's 41 capital offenses that are punishable by death. So clearly, murder is punishable by death, and murdering 300 Americans every single day, knowingly and willfully, should be punished by death. Thank you.
I yield back.
The gentlelady from New Mexico is recognized.
Thank you very much. And I think that the key distinction, as pointed out in the Supreme Court opinions, was whether the importation is tied to the murder. And it's this time that is key, and I think that that's what you were pointing out. Do you want to add anything else to that?
No, just that is the point, is that there are no limitations on what's been proposed here, other than it has to be an importation across the southern border. No limitations as to harm caused, personal use, anything else. Obviously, none of us here want to encourage the importation of fentanyl, but also we don't want to encourage the descent of our laws into brutality and transgressing the constitutional commitment to decency and restraint.
Right, and as I point out, that none of those crimes that you listed have a mandatory minimum. And I really want to go back on the record and point out that under the Biden administration, we have been steadfast at attacking fentanyl. Nobody, no Democrat on this committee has said that we are in any way, supportive of any kind of fentanyl. We indeed are insistent that the problem with this bill is it doesn't go far enough. It doesn't go far enough. Our communities want us to do more with regards to enforcement. They want us to do more with regards to treatment, and that's what we need to do, is we need to do more. This bill doesn't do enough. So with that, I yield back. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlelady from Minnesota is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And would you like to respond to the last comments?
Yes, thank you very much. I think if Democrats really cared about stopping fentanyl and cared at all about Americans being murdered, 300 every single day, due to Biden administration failed border policies and the national security crisis that the Biden administration has created, you all would have voted for H.R. 1, our very strong bill, and our border security package, increasing American energy, but also protecting America's border, helps America's national security. And our border security package brings back Trump's administration border policies. And Joe Biden, through executive orders, wrecked all of those. And that's why we have over 300 Americans dying every single day. You talk about what is humane and decent in treating people. That would be protecting our southern border and stopping people from knowingly and intentionally importing fentanyl that, again, is a poison that comes from China. If Joe Biden cared about saving American lives, he would be strict on China and the amount of fentanyl that they're bringing in and just handing over, selling to the Mexican cartels. If Joe Biden cared about saving American lives, 300 American lives every single day, it's like a bomb going off and 300 Americans dying, then Joe Biden would do something about the Mexican cartels who are basically running 5 out of 9 border sectors across our southern border. If Joe Biden cared at all about these 300 Americans, who, by the way, most of them are under the age of 45, then Joe Biden would absolutely be working with our speaker in this debt ceiling negotiation and making our border security package part of that negotiation. But clearly Joe Biden doesn't care at all, and the Democrats don't care at all about border security or 300 people that die every single day. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. I yield back.
Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, we all represent roughly 750,000 people, and I think we should take everybody seriously who comes before us and not question their intents or their motives or their seriousness. And that's all I had to say, and I'll yield back.
Gentleman from South Carolina is recognized. Gentleman from New York is recognized.
Hey, before you click on the next video, if y'all could do me a big favor and hit that like button. The algorithm loves it, and so do I, because it helps promote these videos and get the message out about what our government has been doing. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications, because every time I put out a video, you want to know about it, right? Thanks again, and have a good one. See you on the next one. Peace.